The Islamic religion, Islam, is a great divine approach, which came to bring people out of the darkness of disbelief, polytheism, and ignorance into the light of peace, faith and knowledge, and this approach that came to achieve these lofty goals must have foundations and pillars on which to base and implement them. To achieve the goals of the unification of God Almighty and the realization of servitude to God Almighty, and thus the realization of succession on the earth. In order for them to be straight on it, and their methods and way of life are based on the nature of this approach, its objectives, provisions, and rules. Like all curricula and all ways of life and regulations in the world, Islam has found rules, principles, and foundations that must be adhered to. In order for a person to be truly a servant of God, and these principles are the pillars of Islam, every Muslim must adhere to these pillars in order for his Islam to be correct. Because failure to adhere to one of these pillars is considered a great danger to the religion, belief, and validity of Islam. Here comes the importance of the 5 pillars of Islam and their position, and that in their perfection the faith is complete, and in their lack there is a demolition of the rules of the Islamic religion. So the pillar is the basis, and the foundation must be strong, otherwise the whole building will fall. The truth of a pillar in language, it is reckoned to a thing, has reckoned into a pillar, and is a corner in it, and a pillar, i.e., a pillar, and a pillar of what is entrusted to it and dwells, and a corner of a pillar if it tends toward a thing and is reassured to it, and has set aside for the world if it tends to it, and has parked in the house, left a corner, it embraces it and does not leave it, the corner of a thing, its stronger side, and the corner, the strong side and the strength of it in terms of king, soldiers, and others. As for the pillars of Islam, they are the main rules and foundations upon which Islam is based, and it is not correct without them or by losing one of them. The 5 pillars of Islam are 5 pillars that are truly pillars, foundations, and rules upon which the correct Islamic approach is based. The Chosen One, upon him be blessings and peace, mentioned them in the noble prophetic hadith narrated by the noble companion Abdullah bin Omar, may God be pleased with them, where he said, I heard the Messenger of God say, Islam is built on 5, the testimony that there is no God but God and that Muhammad is the messenger of God, the establishment of prayer, the payment of zakat, the Hajj, and the fasting of Ramadan. The 5 pillars are in detail as follows: the 2 testimonies and the meaning of the 2 testimonies. For a Muslim to bear witness to the 2 testimonies of Islam, saying, I bear witness that there is no God but God, and I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of God. And the people of knowledge are standing straight, and there is no God but He is the mighty, the wise. As for the meaning of the saying, there is no God but God, that is, that no God is worshipped truly in existence except God, blessed and exalted, alone. Righteousness of what you worship except for the one who invaded me. The meaning of the two testimonies is for a Muslim to bear witness that there is no true worship but God, and to testify that Muhammad is the servant of God and his messenger and the seal of the prophets and messengers. The establishment of prayer. Prayer is the pillar of the Islamic religion, and the first thing for which a Muslim servant will be held accountable on the day of resurrection is prayer. 5 obligatory prayers per day and night are eligible for assignment, and the Muslim has to perform the 5 obligatory prayers according to their time, form, and qualities, and be on purity, and the obligatory prayers are the Fajr prayer, the noon prayer, the afternoon prayer, the Maghrib prayer, and the evening prayer. Assuming the sincerity and correctness of turning to God, the Blessed and Almighty alone, has no partner in all matters, with the sincerity of trust in Him and the sincerity of resorting to Him. The accuracy of the expression in the wording indicating the establishment of the prayer is to perform it in the best possible way and bring it to its truth, and this is what every Muslim is required to achieve in prayer, and it is the daily connection between the servant and his Creator. So what is required is to establish it, not just perform it. Because performing it does not mean performing it as it is, then prayer has a wondrous effect if a Muslim establishes it in its right and adheres to the morals that it calls for, and the virtues that are guided to it. The Almighty said, "Follow what has been revealed to you from the book and make the prayer, for the prayer is forbidden from indecency, and for the forbidden and the remembrance is forbidden." Paying zakat. Zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and it is an obligatory right to money in special cases at a specific time, and zakat is the amount that must be paid from the Muslims' money to those who deserve it, and that is in money that has reached the legal quorum. The expense of zakat is based on the amount that is extracted from the total amount of zakat, and that amount extracted from the money is called zakat. The two are known as cash, as well as from the money that grows, so that zakat is required. As crops and fruits, and offers trade. As for the zakat banks, they are 8. Have them. God Almighty bless the text in the Holy Quran by saying, "But alms to the poor and the needy and the workers on whose hearts and in the necks and debtors in the way of Allah and the wayfarer ordained by Allah, and Allah is knowing, wise." So v maserve zakat which Allah has enjoined dispensing it is these banks the 8. So whoever pays zakat in other than these banks did not fulfill the required pillar, and the obligation of zakat is not waived. Because he did not perform it according to the Sharia method specified in this pillar, and his liability remains occupied with this money that God has enjoined upon him in a rightly demanding of the 8 categories of zakat, and the Muslim must pay the amount of zakat that he owes as soon as it becomes obligatory, on the condition that it has reached the legal quorum also defined by Islamic law through a system zakat, and it is also required that the year be transferred to the money, for any Muslim who has been in possession of his money for a full year with the existence of the rest of the zakat conditions must pay zakat obligatory, bearing in mind that zakat is an act of worship like the rest of the acts of worship, so it is permissible to delay the payment of zakat to those who deserve it in light of special circumstances or even the general public that forbids paying zakat. Provisions for facilitation in the event of hardship to pay harm are also applied to zakat, but the motive is not to avoid paying the rights of those who are entitled to zakat money. Fasting defines fasting as abstaining from all things that break the fast from the true dawn to sunset, with the intention of drawing closer to God and obeying Him, and adhering to His command, glory be to Him. Fasting is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and it has specific and qualitative legal provisions, and it must be adhered to as it came without adding or minimizing it, and the servant is not considered to fulfill the reality of fasting unless he abandons and abstains from all the physical and moral breaks. The physical breakers are eating and drinking, and the moral breakers are the actions and matters that reduce the reward of the fasting person from sins. He is kept away from committing sins, and evils, and he is kept away from strife and insomnia, and since fasting is one of the pillars of Islam, it is an obligation on every Muslim man and woman, subject to the eligibility of assignment. Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is also the pilgrimage that God the Blessed and Exalted has imposed on Muslims once in a person's life, on the condition of health and financial ability, and that the road to Hajj is safe so that if he leaves his country and travels for Hajj, then he is safe from the road and its evils most, and if the road is not safe and overcomes perceived perishing if he leaves his country, the ability is denied by the insecurity of the road, and that is because God Almighty says, "And by God it is upon the people to perform the pilgrimage to the home," with special strips, corners, and branches. The Islamic religion, Islam, is a great divine approach, which came to bring people out of the darkness of disbelief, polytheism, and ignorance into the light of peace, faith and knowledge, and this approach that came to achieve these lofty goals must have foundations and pillars on which to base and implement them.